What's going on, fam? Welcome to another episode of the Change Lives Make Money on the Trader podcast. It's your boy, Brian Mark, and we do Mondays. Kirsten and I do podcasts together. And today,
we like to call it Monday with the Marks.
Today, we're talking about what to do when you're both grumpy.
Yeah. I can't handle it when I'm pregnant and you're grumpy too. I'm like, for 9 months, I don't have it in me.
It's not my fault. Okay, so what ended up happening is we've been doing a bunch of traveling. Like pretty much every weekend we've been going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm typically speaking, like I'm pretty good at doing like the back-to-back travel. Like it doesn't bother me like it bothers Kirsten. But Kirsten has this thing where she tracks everything on her Oura ring. And so like every time she'd travel, she'd come to me and she'd like run out to me and like grab her phone and she'd be like, babe, look, like fucking my Oura ring says I was 10 out of 10 stressed all day.
Okay, kind of. It was like, okay, so it's one thing. We always travel back and forth. And I would just like to first say that we are so blessed to be able to travel all the time. But traveling when you're pregnant and nauseous as fuck and literally coming home and then leaving and then coming home and then leaving and then coming home and then leaving and not sleeping in your bed and puking in random foreign toilets just did not slap. So it was really like challenging. We were back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Brian, the last trip he went on, I didn't go with him. But yeah, my Oura ring did say that I was fucking stressed. Calm down, bitch. Stop traveling.
And usually like, again, I'm pretty good at like just traveling and getting back into it, getting back into it. But like, honestly, this last week, I was not able to do that. And I felt like this last week, I was like more burnt out, overwhelmed and stressed out than I've been in a long time. And my fucking Instagram account got shut down. So I was dealing with that plus the stress of traveling. And Kirsten was not having it.
And then I'm just casually over here building a human being piece by piece by piece. So I'm also not feeling good. So like I need more back rubs. And yeah, we both, what did we do though what did we really do? Because like, honestly, yeah, like I could tell that he was off. And honestly, I had a lot of compassion for him because he's been building his Instagram for such a long time. And like this story started with his Instagram got disabled in Mexico. So it was kind of a bit of a slap to the face, but it's really challenging when I kind of feel like partnerships, there's certain spaces where your partner's performing at 80 and you're at 20 and they almost make up that 80 for you. Like, I got you. And I feel like you really do that for us. But when you're both down and out and there's nobody to pick you up, well, what do you do then?
There was, I read this article and it was about how, like, first things first, it was talking about how it's impossible to be happy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much you work on your mindset, and like me and you work on our mindset a lot, like no matter what, it's impossible to be happy 100% of the time. And so the article was talking about how like the relationships that last, whether that be like friendships, partnerships, business partnerships, whatever, the relationships that last are the ones that learn how to coexist in the moments where, because like if I'm only happy, let's say, 70% of the time, lately it's been probably 60. So if I'm only happy 60% of the time, and then you're only happy 60% of the time, then that crossover, like what do we do in that crossover? Because like my 60% is not going to 100% line up with your 60%. So it's like learning how to coexist in those environments is fucking everything. Because like we definitely had moments where in like the last like couple of weeks where we were both super unhappy, but then we also had moments in the last couple of weeks where like one of us was really happy and the other one was not really happy. So I think it's like, number one, like what about the situations where one of us is happy and one of us is not? Number two, what do we do in the situations where both of us are probably POSs?
I think too, it's a lot of the time about your perspective about different emotions. Cause I mean, everyone's end goal at the end of the day, I think people would say, well, I want to be happy, right? Like it's such a broad goal. I want to be happy. Well, what specifically makes you happy? But I think the only reason why we know happiness, like the only reason why you and I know that this is a good relationship is because of the past relationships that gave us that contrast where we didn't work through things. So I think sometimes when we go through adversity, we almost look at it in the moment as why me? Like I'm sure that when you saw your Instagram got restricted, you were like, fucking why? Right. But then also looking at this profile that you have built, which has 350,000 followers, you never would have done that if you hadn't got your Instagram disabled and your other account wasn't getting great engagement, right? So like that seed of adversity just gave you room to grow and like build. So I think it would be like, if the goal was to be 100% happy in the relationship, that wouldn't be a relationship that was growth oriented. That wouldn't be a relationship that was like building on a daily basis. Because if all you were is happy, what are you ever working through? And if you're not working through anything, like if I look back at my life, like the biggest spaces of learning were throughout the challenges and throughout the anxiety and like learning to not overdrink by overdrinking 20,000 times. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like while it's nice when we're both really happy, and I feel like we're blessed because we both are happy a lot of the time. Like I'd say more than most couples, we're both like on the same page, but I think also it's good for us to not just be happy 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think like, I'll be honest, my goal is to be happier more often than I am not. Like that is like, because like,
yeah,
what's the purpose of being alive if I'm not going to seek that? But I also like, I agree, like knowing that it's not possible to be happy every single moment of every single day, because no matter how good you are at like shifting your perspective, sometimes things are going to happen that are outside of your control where you're like, oh, like that was like, wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting this. So I think that for me, it's about, I agree with the statement that you're like, you know, those adversities gave you the ability to learn something and grow through it. And I think that it's the same thing on like the day-to-day basis with a relationship. Because if I even think about like this last week where like I was fucking super off, like it made me realize like I've been putting work before my personal, work before like how I feel mentally, work before everything. And I keep saying yes to work things, but then in the process, I say no to myself.
Yeah.
I say no to my goals. I say no to the things that I like to do. I say no to my self-care. I say no to like sleeping more. I say no to like, you know, the things that I actually like to fucking do that make me happy. So like even though I was unhappy this week, it's like in that unhappiness, I realized what I was doing that caused that unhappiness. So that like moving like this week, my week is completely different because I learned from the previous week and I was able to be like, okay, I know that the reason that I'm feeling off is because I was putting my business first. So now I'm going to put me first. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. And I feel like that's a really good for you because I feel like it takes quite a bit of work for you to realize that you're putting work first. Cause like you just like to work more than the average person, right? Like the average person is clocks in at 9, leaves at 5, does their 8 hours and they're good to go, right? Where you can happily work 4 weeks straight, 7 days a week and still be like gung ho. So I think like it took a lot for you to be like, holy fuck, I feel like I need to breathe. And then, so that's your journey, right? Like, so your journey right now is really just like honoring yourself and honoring where you're at and taking more space away from work. Whereas I feel like my journey, I'm more like learning from you. For example, like, what do I do when adversity hits? What do I do? Just be honest. This isn't a trick question. Yeah.
Panic.
Instantly, I panic. And he's like my grounding space, right? And I will say that I panic, but then I don't let myself panic for months and months and months. Like I think I catch it quicker. But watching the way that you approach adversity and challenges, I realize that like you're in the space of just more self-care and saying yes to Brian Mark. I feel like I fucking already do that. Like I feel like I'm a lot better at that than you. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I am going to yoga at fucking the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put work first because so I've gone through that. But now it's like, okay, when adversity strikes and I panic, I want to work on reframing the way that I look at adversity and reframing my reaction and reframing like my perspective. Cause I instantly go to like, why me, why me, why me? And in that moment, it almost feels impossible to go back to my past challenges and be like, no. There's going to be a big learning opportunity. Even with my Instagram, right? Like it took me 4 weeks to figure it out. And I was just pissed off about it. I was just angry. And then one day I sat down and I like channeled my inner Brian Mark and I got it done in 6 hours. Right. So that's like, it's just, we're on 2 separate journeys. So I think to circle it, to make it all connect, I think that when you and your partner are both down, you need to know specifically like what you need to bring yourself back up because we needed 2 totally different things.
Yeah. And I also, it's funny because it's like, that's like the difference between the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
It's like for me, the masculine answer is work more, work more. And the solution is like more feminine, like fucking relax, bro. Like take a fucking step back and just breathe.
Yeah.
For you, it's like, self-care, la-di-da, la-di-da. And it's
like, that's easy for me.
Yeah.
Like when I choose to do like that, I'm like, oh, that's easy. Yeah. No to this. Yes to this.
Yeah. But it's like for you to like sit down and be like, we need to solve this fucking problem.
Oh my God. It actually makes me feel like puking thinking about it. Like, I'm just like, thank you for Brian because but there's certain times where like, I can't tell you to focus on yourself more and I can't pull you to say yes to yourself and you can't pull me to react or respond differently.
I think that there's like, cause it's like, there's what I'm going through, what you're going through. And then there's like a couple dynamic. And like, I think that for me personally, like when I'm going through things, this is how I approach it. Like if I'm really fucking stressed out, because like, if I'm really stressed out, like I can start an argument over nothing.
Oh my gosh. Instantly. Yes. Yeah.
when I'm really stressed out, like I try my best to like tell Curse, like, I'm super fucking overwhelmed right now. I'm super stressed out. Like this is really bothering me. Like I'm really fucking tapped out. And I try my best to communicate that because then at least if I've communicated that and I like let that off my chest, if there is anything that comes out and it still fucking comes out, because sometimes I'm a grumpy piece of shit. Like sometimes something will happen and I'll snap and then I'll be like, I'm so sorry. Like I mentioned, I'm like really stressed out. That's not an excuse for me to like act like this, but like I just wanted to communicate. So I think it's really important to communicate like, hey, this is where I'm at right now. Because if you don't communicate, this is where I'm at right now. And then all of a sudden you just fucking snap over nothing, which can happen easily.
Yeah.
It's like, it's less, you know, we're like less forgiving.
I agree. I feel like the only problem is that throughout pregnancy, it would be a constant, this is where I'm at right now. This is where I'm at right now. That would be like every second of every day.
I feel like I'm pretty good though with your pregnancy. Like
you're pretty good. Like the last week or couple weeks was a little bit harder. I will say that because I knew that you were stressed out. But like,
okay, I want to think back to a specific instance where we went out for family night. I get it. You were you're not feeling good.
I literally was gagging right before we left. I could gag thinking about it.
I was just think about how I showed up that whole fucking, the whole experience.
He was so
4 hours straight.
Because I was gagging right before I was like almost puking right before we went to the movie. And he comes in and he's like, I just want to let you know that if you don't want to go to the movie, it's totally okay. And I was like, go to the fucking movie.
And then the whole car ride, hey, I love you so much.
I got into a little bit of an argument with Hayes. I feel like
I'm pretty good.
He is pretty good. Yeah, he is pretty good. Honestly, like I'm highly irritable. Like I've always thought of myself. Not normally, no. But like you always say I'm an extrovert. I'm a social bunny. And quite literally, Brian is way more social than me right now. Like I am not social. I am irritable. I am annoyed. I am like, and I'm working on it. And I have my good days and my bad
100%.
days. Yeah.
And it's like, it's like to be expected. Like you're pregnant.
Yeah. But then I also don't want to just be like, oh, it's expected. You know what? I want to be doing my best throughout pregnancy. Yeah. So my best right now is like, I go to the gym and I'm like stone cold bitch face, but I get my workouts in.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to I still wanted to go to family night. Like I didn't want to not go and just sit in my bedroom. So I'm really just doing my best to navigate while also honoring. Like I've never felt like a total fucking introvert, but you put me in an Airbnb with a gym and my computer and my phone and I would be and food. What else do I need? A pool for the summer. If you just had me by myself in a space, no, I would need you too. And Haley. But then I could just I could just literally be there, read my books, work on my business, do my live streams, and I would not have to. I would like to see my sister and probably like Mariah sometimes too. And obviously Cole and Julia. I don't know what I need. I don't know what I need. But some days I don't want to see anybody. And some days,
I hear you.
Yeah.
The struggle.
It's just it's weird.
Yeah. So like when we're off, like I think one thing that we do well though is like we do communicate. And like if we don't communicate, because sometimes like I try my best to say like, hey, just so you know, I'm feeling this way. But even if we don't, like I think both of us are pretty good at reading the room. You know? And and then we'll read the room. And like if I walk in and I'm like, I can smell Kirsten's mood from a mile away. It's like I'll walk in and I look at her, I'm like, oh, not
anybody
today.
Can, dude. I'm
like, not today. So like if I know a Kirsten's not today vibe, I'll like avoid until approached,
My not today vibe is probably like 80% of the time right now.
I'm just like avoid until approached. And then when I do approach, I'm approaching with love, with expectation, nothing in return. And that's important. I'm like love with expectation, nothing in return. Cause I'm like, I know if I like go up to her, I'm like, yo, what's your fucking problem? Like she's, So I'm like, I just don't do that anymore. I've learned my lesson. Now, if you're off, I'll approach. I'll be like, hey, just want to let you know I love you. And then I know I'm probably going to get the fucking half-assed I love you back, but I'm going to say it because then
I love you.
And then when she's ready, she always comes back around. You just got to give her a space. And then eventually she comes back around and she's like, hey, how are you doing? Can I get some attention now?
Yeah. We do well. We do well.
We do well.
We do well.
We do.
We do. We be doing well.
We be doing well.
Even throughout this crazy pregnancy in his life. Like our lives are just genuinely like super busy.
Yeah.
So it's like to add pregnancy onto that was like already going to be a bit of a wild ride because it was already a very demanding life. But I feel like we're doing a pretty good job.
Yep.
And we're almost out of the first trimester.
No, we're going to go see our little baby today.
Yeah, we get to see our little nugget today. We get to go squish his or hers little face.
If you're in a relationship where you have a hard time because you and your partner feel off sometimes, I think it's just about communication. And I think the communication has to come from like a super grounded, like present place. Like, hey, can we like chat? And then you just let your partner know. And it's never about like, you're making me feel like this. It's like, I've been feeling very XYZ. And because I've been feeling very XYZ, I feel like I've been a little bit off. So I just want to apologize for the part that I played.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, just be honest. Like, I think that has been really good for us is even when you're in a super off mood, like you'll approach me. I'll be like, hey, like, I know I've been a little bit grumpy, you know, like you'll approach me and you'll like acknowledge it. So I think it's really important to do that. And I also think it's like important not to hold anything over your partner. Cause like if I'm grumpy because I was like, you know, whatever XYZ thing, busy. And then I approach you like that, you know, later on that night and you're like, yeah, you're fucking pretty, you know, like I feel like that would make it worse.
Oh yeah. I think you have to just like, yes,
drop off.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Like you had like a bit of an off weekend and I didn't come back and be like, oh, you were really, and it was the same with me. Like last night you did your thing. I did my thing, read my book. And like, that was that. And we woke up this morning and we were like, good to go. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. That was Monday with the Marks. Hopefully you got some value. If you did get some value, you want to follow me on Instagram. It's at The Real Brian Mark. Where do they find you?
The Real Kirsten Mark, baby.
Peace, love, and protein. Have the best day of your life. We'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Let's go.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Hopefully you got some value. If you did, and you want to learn more about how me and my team can help you scale your online fitness business to $10,000 a month, DM me 10K on Instagram at The Real Brian Mark for more information, and I'll reach out to you to see if I can help you grow an online coaching business.